Welcome to my spoiler-free review of Arc Rise Fantasia. If you're looking at a review for Arc Rise Fantasia, this means that you're probably into niche RPGs. Luckily for you, the developer Image Epoch made titles with niche written all over it. Sadly, the developer's gone, but the games still exist. Arc Rise Fantasia is a Japanese RPG for the Nintendo Wii that was developed by Image Epoch and Marvelous Entertainment and was released in America in 2010. This is the 5th game I've completed from Image Epoch. Among the 5 games I've played, Arc Rise Fantasia is closest to a mainstream RPG. Like many RPGs, this game is story-driven with a fantasy world to explore, plentiful dialogue, varied characters, and evolving plot elements. It also has RPG mechanics including items, stats, skills, status effects, and elements. Without spoiling anything, I think the story is solid. Many great RPGs have sections of this game where the story gets stagnant, but I don't feel that here. The situation and objective are always changing, and we consistently get more story elements every 20 minutes of progression. This game is also quite long, with about 50 hours of gameplay. Sadly, the game gives you limited opportunities to learn about its world. The optional quests are some of the shallowest I've ever seen. They are just 2 sentences on a bulletin board asking you to kill monsters. Apart from optional skits, the only other way to enrich the story is to talk with NPCs in the city. Thankfully, there are many NPCs. Conversations with NPCs are well written and varied, and there's a good amount of information hidden behind optional dialogue. As for the characters, they're distinct from each other, and their personalities are well established. In addition, all playable characters have at least one major plot point, one major plot twist, and development. The voice acting is mostly fine. The conversations between characters can be pretty interesting, and there is a lot of attempt made at humor. Each character contributes well to dialogue, and the writing is clever. About the music, the composer Yasunori Matsuda is also the composer for masterpieces Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross. Sadly, Matsuda-san doesn't compose all of the tracks in the game. The soundtrack for this game is better than average, but if you're expecting the soundtrack to be on par with the Chrono series, you will be disappointed. I believe the game's art is one of the strongest points of the game. It is consistent, bright, and colorful. The costume designs are great. The enemies are very fun and cute. The game won't blow your mind in creative environments and intricate level design, because I believe the game's art focuses on simplicity and balance rather than complexity. The visual effects for the skills and summons are well animated, with the effects being distinct for each skill. The characters' 3D models and animals look good for the Nintendo Wii's hardware. The facial expression, eye tracking, and mouth movement look fluid. The character portraits during the skits look great, and I appreciate how the pose of the character changes with each expression. Let's talk about the game's progression. The game has pretty short dungeons of about 15 minutes long with very basic puzzles, such as interacting with a switch to open a door. It doesn't get much more complicated than that. The dungeons are linear, with hallway-based structures and minimal branching paths. If you pause the game reminds you where you have to go. There are no random encounters because you can see all normal enemies. This game is more difficult than average modern JRPGs. Boss fights are especially challenging if you don't pre-equip attachments and equipment that protects you against the boss status effects and elements. Also, the game doesn't always place a save point before a boss, which adds to the game's challenge. In most cases, there's no way prior to knowing a boss element before the counter. But if you lose, at least you'll be better prepared for the second try. This game has some very interesting battle mechanics. because this is a review and not a guide, let's go only over the interesting parts. At the beginning of every turn, all characters that are alive will pool their action points into a collective AP bar. Every action consumes AP, such as magic, excel skills, defending, using items, or moving position. You can have just one character spend all the AP, but the game encourages you to use all of your characters because of sync attacks. If your characters perform normal attacks together, you can trigger support attacks. If your characters perform attack skills together, you get follow-up finishers. If you cast the same spell on the same turn, you get a stronger version of the spell. One of the unique mechanics of the game are ray stones that appear randomly in normal encounters and strategically during boss fights. The ray stone will power up any elemental spell or skill of its element, whether it is a friend or foe casting the skill. They only take one attack to break, but it will respawn in a few turns. Because bosses love to use ray stones to power up their spells, this adds to the tension of boss fights. Completely breaking RPG tradition, weapons do not increase your damage. In fact, the very last weapon in the game deals the same damage as the first weapon you start with. Why do you want to get more weapons then? The answer is customization. Each weapon has a 4x4 grid, and each attachment are like Tetris blocks that you can slot into an empty space. If you level up a weapon, you gain the ability to remove one of the predetermined attachments and put it into any other weapon, even a weapon for a different character. If the weapon's grid is entirely full, it grants the weapon's secret buff. Customizing your weapon tests your creativity and is pretty fun. The magic customization system is also fun. Equipping gems allows your characters to cast magic. Gems will synchronize with similar level gems, but will weaken if the elements are opposite. Any character can cast any magic, but tweaking your gem slots makes a huge difference and can be rewarding. I like the battle. Beneath its facade of simplicity is a great deal of uniqueness, customizability, and strategy. However, the game itself was long enough, and I don't have enough appetite for post-game. But the battle system was great while it lasted. Arc Rise Fantasia is not the best RPG in the world, but it is a solid RPG that manages to rise above its niche status. I would recommend trying it out if you're taking a break from mainstream RPGs and are looking for something else to mix up your gaming experience.